my favorite.
It's Judd's Hockey Show.
You know, we've still got some things to clean up, obviously, with our power play still. Like, the first was great. Curls, shoots, scores. And then we try to get cute again. And then it just, get it there again. Get it there. And we didn't, but that's something we can reinforce. And, we thought our penalty kill was good tonight. We were aggressive. We've got to reinforce a lot of things, but we need some rest here first, and then good practice and get after it again.
Judd's Hockey Show, and I guess what Dean Evason was saying post-game after the Wild 4-2 victory over Buffalo, included an empty net goal by Ryan Hartman, was the special teams for the first time in a while didn't simply just suck. Zolgad and Declan Goff. All right, Declan, my first statement about last night's game in watching it was this, especially the third period, which I thought was impressive.
Yep.
That's the first winning playoff period that the Wild has played it in a long time. Like, I thought that looked like a playoff game, and games do now. Like, that's just how games are, which is great. It's awesome to watch. But the third period of that game looked like a winning playoff period. The Eck line was fantastic. I think that they charted 11 hits in the game. But this is why the Wild's slump is a little frustrating, which included only 4 wins in 14 games going into last night. The Wild slump is frustrating to me because, like, what they did in the third period last night is not like an out-of-body experience. They played really hard. They played well. They kept the puck largely in the Bruins zone, and Boston's won or had won 10-12, so they're damn good.
And they're a good team, yeah.
So that was, I think that what we saw in the third period last night was a definite step in the right direction of how this team needs to play for the rest of this homestand.
Judd, my takeaway from it was kind of like a whole microcosm of their season summed up. Like, they get off to a 2-0 lead, right? They go up 2-0.
Mm-hmm.
They blow that lead. It's tied 2-2. They go into the third period, tied still. Kirill gets a couple goals, right? It looks good. And then you get some secondary scoring from Jordan Greenway, who obviously scores the game-winning goal. You hold off the Bruins in the third, and you win. And you get a nice, strong win. It summed up the entire season where they got off to a hot start, right? They scored 2 goals. They get a couple goals from their superstar, and Kirill, their special teams, comes through. Their goaltending, I know Cam was fine. It was Cam. Yeah, Cam was fine yesterday. But I mean, he wasn't spectacular. He played very well in the third.
He played very well, though. That third was the blueprint for what you want from this team.
And exactly. So that's where I say it's kind of like a microcosm of their season where, I mean, they got the good goaltending when they needed it. But in general, it just felt like everything that's happened to them this season, with them getting off to a hot start, blowing a lead, but still finding a way to win in the third period, which is what they've been doing a lot this year. Yeah, it just kind of felt like their season wrapped up in one game.
Yeah, I think the important thing to keep in mind is how last night's game went against a good team on your home ice is probably indicative of how playoff games are going to go, because there's going to be a lot of good and bad. And the question, and this is one thing that the previous incarnation of this franchise could never do. When you are thrown bad, what happens? Do you fold? Do you come back and say, bleep it? And I guess one of the biggest things that shocks me about the prolonged rough stretch that the Wild has just been through is they folded way more than I thought. Like, I grew to expect that from Parise and Suter and Coyle and Nino. Like, I grew to expect them to be weak. This team, I thought, oh no, they won't be. And I think that's what disappointed me. And that included goaltending. that included the whole thing. So anyway, they're back in as of now, because they're probably going to be flip-flopping with the Preds for a few weeks, back in third place. So they're back in a non-wild card playoff position. And that leads us to, so the Wild will play again at 1 p.m. on Saturday against the Blackhawks at home.
Oh, matinee hockey. I love
a Saturday matinee.
Love matinee.
By the way,
hockey.
A Saturday matinee, I would schedule those. I would try and get those all the time. Saturday, not Sunday. And then at 2 p.m. Central Time on Monday, we have the National Hockey League trade deadline, which we've already started to see moves come in. The Wild started with a move that we have not discussed yet. They acquired I believe it was one season UND star Tyson Jost from the Avs
Yep.
for Nico Sturm, who I think it's safe to say this show was higher on last year, and he had settled into a fourth line role. He had been scratched of late. I never got the feeling, I'm not sure about you, I never got the feeling that the GM and coach were all that enamored with Sturm, so this trade didn't shock me. But I'd really like to get your thoughts on this. What do the analytics say about this trade? Because the one thing with Bill Guerin, Dex, is he definitely had a key role in helping in Pittsburgh with that side of things.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's a long time player. I'm sure he's got old school beliefs as well. So just to trying to get a read on how driven his trades are going to be by gut instinct and by the statistics and the deeper dive on those things. Where does this trade, in your opinion, land as far as what it says about Bill Guerin?
My thought on Nico Sturm is he's developed into a very nice role player. He's a bottom six guy. You and I kind of want him to be more in the top six. He does have speed and size, right? But as the season has progressed, I was telling you multiple times over the last few months, like he's not going to be a top six guy ever. He just won't. Yep. And it's not because it's lack of opportunity. Just he's not skilled enough to be a top six guy. Does not mean he can't have a very nice NHL career in his role. And I think that's why he's going to also be a very good in a situation in Colorado where you know what he is defined as. He's a great fourth liner. He's got size. He'll be fine there. In Colorado. I get the sense that, and I know Michael Russo had the note that apparently they offered him, I believe, a long-term extension team friendly to Sturm, and Sturm turned it down. So that tells me that I don't think Sturm was a bad person in the room, but Bill Guerin, I think, has more good judge of character than necessarily play on the ice. Mm-hmm. Like, as a GM, you take risks all the time when you make a trade, right? Like, remove the human error, just in terms of the on-ice contributions. You're always going to be rolling the dice when you make any type of trade or signing, right? Like, that there's a gamble involved in both those decisions. But I do tend to side with Bill Guerin when it comes to the human side and the off-the-ice characteristics. And I don't, again, not to imply that Sturm was a bad person in the room, but when he turns down that potential offer, that just kind of says to me that, well, you're really not in on what we're trying to build here then. And if Bill Guerin's also not going to waste any time with any BS. So right. If he can get someone with Tyson Jost, and Jost, who's a former top 10 overall pick, just the 1 year at UND, but was a stud. Mm-hmm. There's still upside to his game. And the way he talked about Jost in his first post-game scrum about him and said that there's still something there. He was buried in Colorado. Like, Jost wasn't playing fourth line because he's a fourth line player. Where else are you going to put him in? I believe was it Kevin Weeks, or trying to figure out who I was watching on ESPN the other day. It might have been Drager, actually, where they were talking about, I mean, it's not that Jost was a bad person in Colorado. It's just like, who would you play him above? He has no one. There's no one above him that you can say, oh, he should be playing above Kadri. He should be playing above Landeskog. He should be playing above McKinnon, right? Like, how do you plug him into that team and give him top 6 minutes? You just can't, because there's log jams in front of him. So I think the trade for Jost for Sturm, straight up, just a hockey trade, I think is a very intriguing trade. And I think eventually they're going to give Jost a run outside of that fourth line. And I believe, and I don't think anyone, this isn't a hot take either, I have more trust that he's going to find his game and be a long-term contributor than Frederick Gaudreau is. Like, Gaudreau's a placeholder. Gaudreau's a solid placeholder. You know what you're getting there.
Don't tell Dean that. Dino loves
Jost has something to his game that hasn't been explored yet because he's been buried in Colorado. But I will say, too, last thing on Jost before I give you some analytics on this stuff. I mean, he's just turned 23 years old 2 days ago, or 24, and he's played already in 40 playoff games. He's been with Colorado for the last 4 years. So he's a young kid. He's been in playoff moments. He's got some scoring touch to him, but he probably needed a change of scenery. And I'm curious on what he's able to do here, because I do think there's something to be unlocked with his game.
Yeah, I think the thing with Sturm too is this trade was not. This is not a deadline move made on making a huge difference for 2022. This is a trade made, to your point, when Sturm balked at the contract And I don't blame him. It's clear he was going to walk. It's clear at that point in time that the Wild, with its upcoming, 3 seasons of salary cap problems ahead, wasn't going to keep him. So this trade is not a last second deadline move because, oh my goodness, shakeup of the fourth line is going to help. I think this had as much or more to do with, and if I'm not mistaken, Jost is signed at it's a $2 million cap it next season. So he's more expensive than Sturm was this season, but he's locked in and there's cost certainty there. So yeah, I don't think that this is the first move of the deadline moves of, oh, the team has improved. This is done to give the kid a chance here. I think that the thought is, to your point, that he can go up a line or two and score. But the reality is it's also a nod to, this is the type of deal that we're going to see now, because if the Wild can't keep you and you're going to be free to walk away for the next few years, Declan, they're going to have to explore the option of trading you quickly.
Right. And digging into the analytics a little bit on this trade, because I know, we were talking off, Mike, because you were curious on what they've said and what the analytics look like for both these players. So defensively, actually, it's about a wash. It's about the same. Analytically, they've been about the same player defensively because they've been playing fourth line minutes, and they haven't been a detriment to their team defensively. Nico Sturm has created technically more offense and driven more offense than Jost has. But I also believe Jost wasn't surrounded by the best fourth line teammates. And he also, his game overall isn't suited to being a fourth line player.
Sure.
So offensively, yes, there is a little bit of a drop off in the analytics that suggests that Sturm has been a better offensive player than Jost. But Jost is a top 10 pick, a guy who has offense to his game. And if you give him better line mates and teammates, I'm going to guess that Jost is going to end up finishing and being a better offensive player than Nico Sturm is in the long run. Now, what I don't want to see is him just being bogged down in that fourth line, right, with like Bugstead, and if Connor Duer's coming in and out of the lineup. Like, I don't want to see that. I would rather give him run with a Fiala and Boldy and see what you can do there. I understand that the coaching staff loves them some Frederick Gaudreau.
That's not going to happen this unless Gaudreau gets hurt. That will not happen until at the earliest next season.
But then how come Bill Guerin basically said, no, our goal is essentially to give him an extended look and not just on the fourth line
next season? I guarantee you that.
So I actually disagree with you. I think eventually he's going to get look with Fiala and Boldy at some point in the next coming weeks. Not tomorrow, not on Saturday when they get on the ice next. But in the coming weeks, he's going to get run outside that fourth line.
Gaudreau would have to get hurt. I'm convinced of that. Dean, right or wrong, loves the guy. Absolutely loves him. And Dean is very old school. There's one thing that you do not see, I don't think, from the majority of coaches that you used to see consistently too. And that is love of the lines. I mean, everybody else here, starting with Jacques, would shake up lines in a heartbeat. Like, he'd get mad and shake them up within the period. And Declan, think about the stability here. Like, this team has genuinely, for the last, month plus, struggled. And we have not seen, we saw a Hartman was taken off briefly as the center from that top line, and Eck was put up there. And I think within that same game, they went back to the previous line. So I get what you're saying. I don't disagree with you at all, but I don't think that we will see Tyson Jost get a chance to move up from his line, because he is certainly not going to be, unless, again, Eck gets hurt, move to the Greenway Foligno line until next year. Because Dean, I bet if you look at the line statistics, I bet the Wild is among the top 3 in like line combinations time together.
Yeah.
For the season. He doesn't break them up really.
He doesn't touch them too much. That. I agree. Yeah.
Think about, because Josi, he'd break them up in a second.
Yeah.
Boods love to break them up. Just for a reference point, Tyson Jost Came into the league in 2016-17 with the Avs. He played 6 games. His career high in goals came in 17-18. He had 12. He had 11 the next. He has not scored more than 9 since then. And his career high in points was in 18-19 when he had 26. So, yes, he does need a chance. All right, continuing on the trade threads. I saw this tweet that came out from Darren Drager. I believe it was this morning. It was forwarded to me. Let me see what time. Yes, at 7:40 this morning, Darren Drager, who is an insider for TSN in Canada, very plugged in, said action around Boston College forward Jack McBain is heating up. His playing rights will be traded by the Wild to a club he's willing to sign with. Multiple teams eager to acquire the 22-year-old. A second-round pick has been the ask, maybe more now. So it certainly seems like if the Wild is going to make a trade that's going to impact the roster, which I think that they will, that Jack McBain will be a key part, which then begs the question, then are they going to package him in a deal as a centerpiece type? So your return is going to be, I would guess, okay, but not great. I'm just curious what we're going to see from Bill Guerin as far as trades go. And it comes back to this too, Dex. I will continue to say that I think the order for the needs and the probably realistically, I think they would go defenseman first, goalie second, because I don't know that they're going to give up the price there. Because I'm with you. I don't trust Talbot or Capo. Center third, and I actually think a center now is probably the most likely thing off the table. Like I would be, I've gone from, hey, I fully expect that they're going to get a guy that can win some draws to I'd really be surprised if that trade is made.
So if they trade Jack McBain, and it sounds like the Wild are seeking a second-round pick in return for that, that would give the Wild essentially 3 picks between the first 2 rounds, 2 of them coming in the second round. As it's currently constructed, the Wild right now have a pick in every round, and they have 2 in the 5th round. So they have at least 1 pick. They have a pick in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 6th, and actually they have no 7th round picks. So they have 2 5th round picks, but they have picks in rounds 1 through 4. If they get a second round pick for Jack McBain, that gives them, 2 second round picks most likely. One of those picks would then obviously I think be used as a poker chip to then potentially get something else at the trade deadline. Whether that's them giving up their second round pick or the newly acquired second round pick in the Jack McBain trade, one of those two, and potentially both, I guess, could be used as trade chips to get something you want. I still think it's a goalie. Garrett, I know, said that he still trusts them, even though the numbers suggest that I shouldn't trust them. I love that he has the awareness of he knows that it hasn't been good enough. And I think eventually if the price either comes down on Fleury or comes down on someone else, they have to pull a trade for a goaltender. They just have to. Like I know they need size defensively, and Matt Dumba, I mean, my God, I don't know what the hell is going on with him. I was listening to Joe O'Donnell and Tom Reed yesterday, and during the third period on the power, was on the 4-on-4, and he dumps the puck and Reed was perplexed, like, what is up with Dumba? He wasn't just that play. He was saying something's up, not like he's hurt, so, like mentally, something doesn't seem right with the decisions and the even on the first goal he gave up. Like, Dumba, that's your guy. Like there's something missing in his game. Regardless, though, I personally think you still got to go get a goalie. You just have to.
I think the price is going to be too high. There's teams, if the Oilers do not get a goalie before 2 p.m. Central Time Monday, Ken Holland should be immediately fired. Like that's incredible. That makes Talbot and Capo look like Espo and Tretiak in goal. I mean, They are, and I know Koskinen's stats have improved. I don't trust him one bit. Toronto's an interesting one because the kid that they just started in goal, is it Schallman? It's a Swedish kid. Got a shutout in his first game, or in his first start. It was his second game. He played really well, but I don't know, that is hashtag incredibly small sample size, but there are teams that need goaltenders. The only question is there's going to be a few out there available. Unfortunately for the Wild, because of their cap problems, they're probably not going to want to trade for a goaltender with term left, which then brings you back to a guy like Marc-Andre Fleury.
So two names, in my opinion, to keep an eye out if I'm a Wild fan that aren't Marc-Andre Fleury. And this team, as the Wild have been scouting with them a ton, is Ottawa. Anton Forsberg could be someone I believe that is moved.
No, he's out now.
He's out?
No, Murray got hurt. He's out. They're actually working with Forsberg on a contract extension now. So he's probably out.
Okay. I saw a friend of the show, Puck Daddy, was put out his list this morning, and he still believes he's an under the radar guy that could potentially be moved.
Okay. Yeah. No, I read a story from the paper in Ottawa today that Murray might have like a concussion again. He's had a bunch, and so there's a genuine concern that he won't be able to play again the rest of the season. And Forsberg, who I think has struggled of late but had a good season, is not that expensive, so they're actually trying.
He's a UFA, and he makes
he
$900,000.
would have been ideal. He'd be ideal.
Yeah. I would still kick the can though. Like Ottawa isn't going anywhere.
Sure,
I would at least make the call. Yep. And the other forward I'm curious on. I know we said we don't believe a center's going to be traded here, and I know he's in the division. But what is Winnipeg going to do with Andrew Copp? What are they going to do with him?
I don't know.
Are they going to trade him?
They're such a weird team, Dex.
Yeah,
they're such a weird team. They are. I don't understand them. Like they are right now at a major crossroads, right?
Yeah.
Because they've had a terrible year, but then they pop up, and they shouldn't be this bad. It's a really weird club.
Yeah. Last thing, too, from our guy Puck Daddy, Greg Wyshynski at ESPN, and to prove the point of you that the goaltenders market's getting too hot for the Wild, he has the winners and losers category today, and he has winners as Cam Talbot and Kaapo Kakkonen. Last thing on this, he says Minnesota Wild GM Bill Guerin gave his goaltenders another vote of confidence on Tuesday, saying that he trusts their character in being able to level up their game. And while that might be code for the prices for replacement goalies are way too high, it's a nice bit of job security on a very good hockey team for these netminders. So both Greg Wyshynski and Judd Zulgad agreeing, kind of reading the tea leaves between Bill Guerin of it's not necessarily that he has full trust in his goaltending. It potentially is code for I'm not paying the price to get another one in here.
That's my fear. Yep. Copp didn't play in the Jets game on Tuesday night against the Golden Knights because of an upper body injury, but it's not clear how significant that is. Jacob Chikrin, who would be ideal, he probably gets moved, not here. I believe he suffered an ankle injury that they thought was really serious last week, and it's not as bad now. But I mean, Monday's going to be great, but the prices are always high.
Yep, and Judd's actually will be ready to break it down. I mean, I'm sure we might even if nothing comes out in the last half hour or 30 minutes of that deadline, Judd and I will probably be ready to react live, or if something does happen, we'll obviously be ready to break that down as well. So Judd's Hockey Show, always ready for trade deadline, baby.
Oh God, we love the moves, free agency, trades, reckless speculation. I'm Judd. He's Dex. I believe he's got a clip to play.
Got one more clip because the Wild actually won a game. Hit the subscribe button on this YouTube channel, Apple, Spotify, ScoreNorth.com. We'll talk.
Listen, you guys know what this is all about, right? Right? What's it all about? Spurgey?
Hard work and having fun.
That. This is about winning.